Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC, Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the man who will say Factory X at least one time tonight, KC Onyebuchi. And
what up, X?
And the food prep king himself, John Keys.
Yes, I am. What is up, everybody?
All right, so before we get started, John Keys, what are you prepping? What's the food? What are you cooking?
It was chicken, pork chops, and vegetables tonight. Broccoli, corn, carrots. Just a little medley there.
Like this is a stir fry ready to happen.
It might be. It just might be, sir. Just something I could bring to work tomorrow.
All right. Just make sure you bring enough for everybody.
Yeah, I'm not feeding you tomorrow. Okay, 'cause I got out of that bet, sir. Okay, right. I came out of that. So.
So we had a bet going on, KC, where if I was able to correctly predict what happened in Game of Thrones, lunch would be on John Keys. Unfortunately, I got it wrong.
Yeah, you got it way wrong. But it was a good effort, though.
I'm pretty sure I won that bet by simply not watching a ridiculous show.
I'll tell you just lost like 50% of the crowd right there. Okay, just on that statement.
Yeah, I mean, it just happens to be one of the most decorated and highly celebrated shows of all time. And also the most pirated show of all time.
Good. That doesn't make it good. It just means that people needed stuff to talk about around the water cooler.
I don't know. I something tells me that, the barometers of what makes it good tends to be like the awards that it wins.
I thought it was about how much it was pirated, honestly.
Pirated too. Yeah. I mean, the fact that it's won a lot of awards and was pirated more than any other show in history makes it a good show. And so we start with the UFC headed to Rochester, New York for a welterweight main event between Rafael dos Anjos and Kevin, the Motown phenom, Lee. Now, this was Lee's first event at welterweight, and he planned to make a run at one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC. So let's look at those results and all the results from the card in a segment we like to call The Official Decision. The Official Decision. This is The Official Decision. This is where we look at all the fights that were on Saturday night. This was UFC on ESPN Plus number 10, featuring Dos Anjos versus Lee, Saturday, May 18th, 2019, at the Blue Cross Arena in Rochester, New York. There were 6 fights on the card. Davi Ramos versus Austin Hubbard. Davi Ramos won via unanimous decision. A lot of great action.
Yeah, that was. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, just I know we're going to run through all of the fights, but even the prelims, I got to be honest, the New York crowd gave a lot of love. There's some interesting decisions for some of the hometown fighters, but all in, man, this card was actually pretty stacked with some great fights. I think it was the most finishes that's ever happened on a UFC card. So, man, there was a lot going on. This whole card that we're about to run through was absolutely awesome.
Well, and that's something that I've been noticing in a certain trend. Whoever's doing the matchmaking is doing an awesome job now because they're actually making great cards. I don't think they've had a suck card the entire year so far. So hats off to the matchmaking team for making it happen.
All right. Hey, Charles DuBronx Oliveira defeated Nick Lentz via TKO in round 2. Oh my gosh. This fight, they got five rounds worth of fighting done in 2 rounds.
Oh my goodness. Loved it. So what I loved about it was how much of a size advantage Charles had over Nick, but Nick somehow early on in round 1 was able to find some success getting inside, but then just got worked. It was a fun one to watch.
So yeah, I absolutely agree. And what was great is that the announcers did a really good job of setting up the fact that this was going to be a bit of a barn burner. This was the second fight. This is a rematch. So Charles Oliveira and Nick Lentz had fought previously. Charles Oliveira won the fight, but on further review, it was shown that he had landed an illegal strike, which ruled that a no contest. Then Charles Oliveira and Nick Lentz fought again. Oliveira won the fight, so this was kind of a rematch of the rematch of the no contest. And Charles Oliveira won again via TKO. Now, once again, in this fight, there was what appeared to be an illegal strike, and the referee stood them both up and gave Nick Lentz an opportunity to recover. And, the referee, before restarted the fight, gave Lentz the decision to be able to either stand up and resume the fight on the feet or take a dominant position on the ground.
Yeah, I love that, because typically what happens is the ref makes the decision for you and you both stand back up. And that actually plays to the advantage of certain people. If you're just getting worked on the ground, then heck yeah, I'll do anything possible to stand back up.
All right. Hey, Vicente Luque defeated Derek Krantz via TKO in round 1. Now, this was supposed to be the co-main event, but because Neil Magny got popped for PEDs or some type of tainted supplement, we're still trying to figure out what the source of the positive test by USADA was. Derek Krantz came in with like 5 days notice, or maybe even less than that, to come in there and fight one of the most difficult guys to fight at 170 pounds. I mean, this guy's coming up the ranks. He'll be a contender someday. And Derek Krantz walked in there and said, I ain't scared of you.
Now, it's an interesting story about Derek Krantz, because he's part of Dana White's Tuesday Looking for a Fight Contender series deal that he does on YouTube. This show actually happened this weekend. Okay, they were actually going to show the show Saturday, the same night that he was debuting. I think the show happened just before he came out. He walked out to the ring. So, guys from Austin, he's 31 years old. He walked in there with a 24-10 in LFA. He's pretty much was going to. Pretty much, I guess, in the prime of his career at LFA, and Dana White said he wasn't really going to do anything with them, but it was his attitude that he impressed him so much that he walked back there and said, "I'm going to give you a chance," and so he walked out.
Oh, are you testifying to the goodness of Dana White?
I think it touched the feels of Dana White to see a guy that excited when he's sitting in, because think about it, Dana White's is in the office all day. He's hearing about some of these prima donna fighters, and I'm not calling no names because I don't want to get ran up on. Okay, let's get it out there. I don't want to get ran up on by any fighter. I'm not calling out no names, but there are some fighters. Don't do it, because he'll look. They'll look at me and be like, "That's Ryan Smith," and I'm not going to do it.
No, that isn't. Listen, your voice is way too high to be Ryan Smith. And KC, if you're going to call out fighters, that last time you called out fighters, Anthony Smith was there.
That's the difference. You called out a fighter for
me. Exactly. And trust me, I look like everybody's cousin. They will look at me and swear up and down that I am Ryan
KC,
Smith. And I'm like, I'm not. I'll hit the high point, the high pitched voice. I'll remove all the bass, because what I sound like on the mic is not what I sound like in person.
Yeah, your voice is way higher in person.
No, it's not. Okay. Stop it. All right. No. Depending on the time of day, it might be even deeper than Ryan. So no, I'm not going to name no names. But this guy he has so much energy that I guess it touched. It impressed him because he doesn't see it as
amazing finish, right? So you get a finish in front of Dana, in front of a crowd that's excited. It changes the game and it gives you a shot. And so I think Dana fed off of the fact that the crowd was into it. So if
and that helps too.
Promotion, that's a game changer for you.
Well, I think I'm excited about Derek Krantz. If you really wanted me to be honest, that dude walked in that ring fighting Vicente Luque, and he nearly overwhelmed him. Just coming out there, ran across the ring and just started throwing bombs. Almost finished the fight.
Almost.
The problem is that instead of standing up and trying to continue to dominate on the feet, he tried to wrestle with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist, and Luque decided he was going to recover, and then ended up catching him in a reverse headlock and just wailed on him until the fight was over. So
yeah,
I'm excited about what Derek Krantz might be able to do in the UFC. He definitely impressed me, being a late fight replacement. I'm assuming he made weight, which is why he lost. You know the rules.
If you snooze, you lose.
No, that if you're a late fight replacement and you make weight, you will lose. All right, let's go on. Canadian Felicia Spencer defeated Megan Anderson via submission in round 1. Now, I always called her Megan Anderson, but apparently it's Megan. She's from Australia, and they have to say things the way they say them.
Yeah, and they also have to lose a ton of weight before the fight. Holy moly! I think it was something like 30 pounds, like the week before the fight. That Megan was coming into this at, and I mean, she looked good. She seemed to make the weight fairly easily on her new meal plan. But the problem is that at a certain point, we've seen time and time again that if you're focusing on the weight cut, you can't do the work, right? So you're not coming in at full strength. So I got to wonder if that factored in. I mean, if you watch the fight, she just got absolutely smothered by a jiu-jitsu specialist, it looked like. But you do have to wonder to some degree, does that weight cut factor in?
I don't know. If you want me to be honest, I just don't think that Megan Anderson is the best featherweight out there. I mean, part of it is the fact that her first fight was against Holly Holm, and Holly Holm was on point that night and beat Megan Anderson up. She fought Kat Zingano, but there was a freak accident, which is why she won, because she head kicked Kat Zingano, and her toe, Megan Anderson's toe, lacerated the eye of Kat Zingano. So it was a doctor stoppage. So I really, to be honest, haven't seen enough from Megan Anderson to really say that she is a competitive featherweight. And so if she's cutting 30 pounds in order to get down to 145, which is the heaviest of the female divisions, I think this is not her jam, at least not in the UFC. Maybe going back to Invicta might be a better strategy for her, but I don't think she's really going to be a contender at the highest levels at that.
That's tough to say. The competition you just named, she's fighting the best of the best, and this fight losing. That she just yeah, but who doesn't lose to Holly Holm?
Chris Cyborg.
Oh.
Hey. Amanda Nunes.
Oh, here he goes. There it is.
What's her name? Cupcake.
Here we go. Miesha Tate.
Miesha Tate doesn't lose to Holly Holm. Like, the only people who really loses to Holly Holm is Ronda Rousey and Megan Anderson. And Betch Kahea.
All right, fair enough. I just think that Megan probably does have a skill set that will allow her to stay competitive in the division. Is she ready for for the title? Not yet, but I mean, she's facing some stiff competition, so we'll see.
I'm willing to see, because I was really on the Megan Anderson hype train when she was coming out of Invicta. I really wanted to see her against Chris Cyborg, and then it was just like, oh, her first fight was against Holly Holm, and Holly just dominated her, and then she fought again, but it was like a much significantly smaller person, and it was like, okay, I don't know that that's a really good barometer. And then freak accident with Kat Zingano, and then she just got rolled up by Felicia Spencer. So it's like, I just haven't seen anything that gives me confidence that this is a contender. That's all.
Well, this could be the plateau for her, because as with anybody, certain people excel at certain levels, and maybe you're right, Ryan, that at the Invicta level, she was a dominant force. But
she was a champion.
But getting to the UFC level, where it's been proven time and time again that the absolute best will fight here in the UFC, she's just not there. Maybe she needs to go back to Invicta, regroup herself, or take some time out and regroup herself here in the UFC and see what she does.
Right. Someone showed that they are there already. Factory X's Ian Hines. Oh my goodness. This fight, Ian Hines versus Antonio Carlos Jr. You can't tell me that was an amazing battle there. All right. So what was not to like about that fight?
Well, it was a good fight. I mean,
it was a great fight.
We wanted to keep talking about Megan Anderson. You just wanted to have to go on to Ian Heinisch.
Well, let's talk about Ian.
Let's talk about Ian. How do you pronounce his name?
Ian Heinisch.
What is that? Is it like German or Dutch?
I think it's German.
I think he's American.
But the last name.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's American.
Okay. All right. So you know what?
With the USA flag.
Okay. All right. So
one nation, God, all that.
Well, so let's talk about this fight. Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface is what he's called. He came out, and I thought he was going to roll up Ian Heinisch, to be honest.
Oh.
He came out just strong, and I'm like, dude, this fight is not going to last very long. And he got one good round on Ian, and then Ian jumped up, got in this fight, and took rounds 2 and 3 without any doubt. I mean, it was Antonio Carlos Jr. had one good round at him. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Antonio did a really good job with his jiu-jitsu. He had Ian in some really tough spots, where I really felt like he probably should have tried his luck a little more was on the feet. I mean, it was a fairly even exchange on the feet, but Ian's defense on the ground was just that wrestling background kept him incredibly safe. He had a couple trouble spots that he was able to wiggle right through. And as he said in the pre-fight, that his whole goal was to have really good scrambles that took away any of Antonio's possibilities. And he capitalized on that. And I was kind of surprised. I really thought the jiu-jitsu of of Antonio was actually going to overtake him. But
yeah, overall, I think primarily what happened is Antonio Carlos Jr. just gassed out. I don't think he could keep the pace. The first round, I mean, he was so crisp with the striking. I mean, even with the jiu-jitsu, he was able to get Heinisch in some really tough positions. But at the end of the day, when it came to round 2 and 3, he just slowed down.
Yep. And that was the thing the announcers kind of called out, is how Ian is a little bit of a slow starter. He kind of gets his gas as the fight goes on, and that really showed up in this fight.
All right. And in the main event of the evening, Rafael dos Anjos defeated Kevin Lee via submission in round 4. This was Kevin Lee's debut at 170 pounds. If you remember a couple of months ago, Kevin Lee was like, 155 pounds can't seem to get their act together, and this is true. I don't doubt that. So he was moving up to 170, where there's still a ton of killers there. Rafael dos Anjos was the first head that he was looking for, and it didn't work out too well for him.
Yeah, he should have picked a different fight. He should have had I wouldn't say a tune-up fight before fighting somebody on the caliber of Rafael dos Anjos, because I don't care what anybody says, even on a bad day, a good day, or whichever day. Okay, Rafael dos Anjos is a threat. He's a serious threat, and great fight. Kevin Lee came out there. He did what he was supposed to do, put pressure on Rafael dos Anjos, but in the end, it was a heartbreaker. It seemed like he that he had a pace that Kevin Lee had a pace that would tire anybody. Okay, and he put a lot of pressure on him, but when he got tired, Rafael, he caught him in the slip, and Kevin Lee, it was a heartbreaker. Like I said, he was upset with it, and Kevin Lee's going to have to learn that even though he said he did everything right, the hardest lesson for anybody is to know that you did everything correct, everything right, and still got it wrong.
Was it a heartbreaker?
It was a heartbreaker.
All
it
right.
really was. That head and arm choke was literally out of nowhere, and once he sunk it in, you knew he had him.
I do think that there was a little bit of an issue with Kevin's gas tank. Like he pushed, he tried to stick with RDA the whole time, and I mean they both had each other in some interesting spots where it was you're using everything you got. But round 5, man, round 4, Kevin just had nothing left. He looked defeated before the final submission because he worked so hard for that single leg.
Yeah,
did get it. And he collapsed. He was done before the fight was over.
And the challenge here is that this is at 170. So technically he should have had more gas in his tank because he didn't have to cut 15 pounds.
I think honestly it was just the caliber of the fighter that he was going up against.
So if anything, what Kevin Lee should have learned is that if you're going to move up from 155 to 170, the first person you have to fight is Neil Magny.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, that's what everybody else was doing. Everybody else was like, if I want to get legitimacy at 170, who should I fight first? Neil Magny. Unfortunately, Neil Magny was off the table because of USADA, but I'm just saying, if you think about Rafael dos Anjos' first fight at 170 was Neil Magny. There was someone else who moved up from 155 to 170 and fought Neil Magny and won. I think it might have been Cowboy Cerrone. Neil Magny is the quintessential stepping stone to contendership, at welterweight.
Wow.
There it is. Prove me wrong. We're going to close the book on this one, put it on the shelf because this card is history. Now we're going to go into the headlines that are making waves in the UFC and combat sports world. That is Fighting the Angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines that people are talking about in the wake of the fights this weekend. We are Combat Sports Talk. That means we have to talk about more than just the UFC, but also some other promotions that had some big fights, as well as the sweet science of boxing. Deontay Wilder defeated Dominic Breazeale via knockout in round 1. It's been a while since we've seen a first round knockout from Deontay Wilder, but this one is for the record books. He caught Dominic Breazeale with a right. Man, it's got me choked up. That thing was powerful.
Yeah, Dominic caught that right, and I don't think he's gave it back yet. So he might have to mail that back to Deontay. That was a killer. Okay, it stuck.
Oh,
I don't think his jaw is right no more.
Dude, Deontay Wilder hit Breazeale so hard that he just sat down, laid back, and was just like, man, look at the stars. He didn't even know he was inside a building.
It was something to see. I recommend everybody go on YouTube. Matter of fact, I might upload that up somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's available. I mean, if you want to see it, I mean, everybody's got it posted. The fight didn't last all that long, so you can see the knockout. It was pretty dramatic.
Do we qualify that for the buffer factor? Did that qualify?
No, it did not qualify for the buffer factor. The fight lasted like 2 minutes and some odd seconds. So it almost made it out of the first round, but it did not. Here's the thing that I thought was interesting. Deontay Wilder is 6'7", as well as Dominic Breazeale. But Deontay Wilder is 6'7". He's got an 83-inch reach. Now, Why is that? Huh?
Is that short?
It's shorter than one fighter that we know and love.
John Jones, what's your reach again?
Who, mine?
Yeah. Yours is like 78?
Yeah, it's like 77, 78.
Yeah. So that's why I figured at like 6'7", he doesn't have crazy long arms.
He doesn't. But think about John Jones, who's 6'4". He's got longer reach than Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
By an inch, I think.
It's by an inch.
Yeah, that matters. Like, so trying to get inside on John Jones, he could just work you from so far outside. That's nuts.
Yeah, but that's the thing that's so crazy.
John Jones doesn't wear regular shirts. He can't shop off rack.
No Walmart for that man. No.
Yeah, John Jones, when he puts a shirt on, it's 3 shirts.
So I kind of relate though, because that's you and I, right? Like I'm 5'11" with a 78-inch reach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't buy regular shirts. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, KC and I have the same reach, and I'm 4 inches taller.
Wow.
But the thing is that Dominic Breazeale outweighed him by 32 pounds. So, you have your 40 pound rule that you always like to talk about, John. 32 pound weight difference.
Wow.
It didn't matter.
That's a lot of meat.
It didn't matter. But the thing is that you look at Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder looks like a freaking bodybuilder. I mean, that guy has 0 body fat. Dominic Breazeale looked like Ezel. Just, I mean, that guy ain't worked out he might have boxed and got some cardio, but he ain't cutting weight like fat.
Are you saying he went in there with a dad bod, dude?
Oh yeah, like I think I might be a little bit more shape than him.
That's the problem with this whole knockout, though. Yes, it's beautiful, and it was thrown with some anger. That was to this day anger.
Yeah. So,
but look at who you fought. Like, you fought basically a big version of me. Like, okay. But if you didn't do that, that'd be suspect.
This is the one thing that I don't like about boxing. Actually, there's a lot of things that I don't like about boxing, but this is one of the things that I don't like about boxing. Is the fact that the fight that we want to see is Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. Like, that's the fight we want to see. Why we got to go through all these other fighters? Let's just see the fight we want to see. Let's see what he does against, like, the guy who has all the other heavyweight belts.
Not gonna happen.
I don't know.
It's not going to happen. That's the thing. That's what I don't like. It's never going to happen. It's frustrating to me. Because now we get to see Anthony Joshua fight guys that Anthony Joshua probably will beat up. Deontay Wilder will keep padding his record with Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And we will never see the 2 greatest heavyweights that we currently have today on this planet ever fight each other.
We already did. We saw Fury versus Wilder.
Which, let's just be honest, Tyson Fury, if Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua were the 2 best, then there's a close third, and that is Tyson Fury. I love to watch that dude fight. I don't even like boxing. All right, but KC, I understand you don't really want to give credit to the knockout of the Michelin Man.
Yeah, not at all. It's hard.
Super Sage Northcutt got knocked out in 29 seconds in his ONE FC debut.
Ugly.
He left the UFC. He had basically kind of a kind of career in the UFC. Went to ONE FC to get some more money. Wanted some more fame. Wanted to be around fighters who were about his size. And then he got KTFO'd.
So my problem with this is Sage disappointed me, not because he got knocked out, because he proved that Dana White is actually good at his job. Like, Dana chose not to further invest in this kid, and it was the right call.
Well, it was a freak accident. Okay, I mean, the punch wasn't a freak accident, but everything that happened afterward. All right,
he broke his nose. The destruction of his face, 8 fractures to his face.
Yeah, you only see that in Mortal Kombat. Okay, that move and they go to the skeleton. That's exactly what happened to Super Sage. So I mean, dang.
Shout out to Cosmo Alexander. That dude landed one of the biggest punches I've seen in a long time. I would have to say, boom, rocked him.
Oh yeah, and the fact that it came off of a counter. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sage Northcutt had to have immediate surgery to reconstruct his face, 8 facial fractures from that one punch.
That to me says it's time to hang it up. So it'd be different if it was a knee that got him, but if you get your face broken from a punch, are you really cut out for this life? Because you can't train your face to be stronger, right? Like there's no exercise for that. You just can't handle this.
See, I don't think that. John, what do you think?
I don't know about that either. I mean, it happens. I mean, we see it all the time. Happens in baseball, basketball. I mean, people break their nose. It happens. It just reconstruct, get back being better. Protect yourself next time, please. Put your hands up, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is something we were talking about. This is something we were talking about on Twitter. But it has to go back to Sage Northcutt. His base style is karate, and a lot of times those guys keep their hands down at their waists. And when you're fighting a guy who's a Muay Thai specialist, well, that guy's going to be hands up, very tight, compact, throwing knees, elbows, punches, and kicks. It's not compatible with a style that's going to have your hands down. If you're not going to have the footwork that's going to keep you out of range, if you're not going to be able to keep your head movement where it's not going to be right down the center line, as Casey likes to talk about and George like to talk about, if you're going to keep your head there, then you got to be ready for that punch. And what happened was Sage didn't realize where he was in the ring. He hit that rope, and he realized that he was at the edge of the ring. He tried to move off of it and didn't lift that hand up as he was rolling out of that position, and the right hook was coming.
And it hit and it connected.
So that's the thing is I think it's not so much that he doesn't have his hands up, because I mean, Silva and so many others have shown that, yes, you can have your hands down as long as you know how to get back into position. The problem is that Sage never gets off the center line, ever. Like, he stays on center line, and I feel like I could take Sage. Like, talk about calling out a fighter. Sage, get your face. Right? Because the guy, he seems fairly easy to beat because he's not gonna deviate. He doesn't know how to pivot well. His spatial awareness is trash.
So that's going to be something that I'll talk to George about when we come up to the next main event. Is talk about the center line, why you want to move off the center line, and what happens if you stay too much on that line.
There's an interesting thing that happens that I love to exploit too when I'm fighting, is that inside leg kick. It tends to freeze your head, right? So you're bobbing left, you're bobbing right. You take an inside leg kick and you kind of freeze for a second, like you're trying to catch yourself, and that's when you're really susceptible to that right hand coming in. And so this is why I feel like give me Sage all day, because I can make sure his head stays on center line, and I'll eat him up. But whether or not he should still stay in this, I know you guys say yes, but I mean you're not even fighting top tier talent anymore, and you're getting your face broken.
Yeah, I think it's a freak accident. I'm with John. It's a freak accident. He's a young dude. He's 23, 24.
He's got a long career.
He's got a long career. He's going to learn from these types of things. And what's going to happen is that I think that by the time he's 30, he'll have a pretty decent career, and he may even make it back to the UFC. So that's my prediction. Fortunately, we've got about 6 years for you guys to forget that I made that prediction.
Oh no, I'm holding on to it. This is saved for posterity.
And the internet never dies, dude. So unless there's an EMP that happens across the earth, we got the recording.
Or the guy that said it has the recording, and he'll just delete it. Javier Mendez thinks that Conor McGregor is the most dangerous threat for Khabib Nurmagomedov. So they were talking about 4 potential rivals for Khabib, and he gave his assessment to what he thought was the least dangerous fighter for Khabib and to the most dangerous. So here it is in order from weakest to strongest. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson, and then Conor McGregor. He says that Conor McGregor's boxing is special. Thoughts on that?
I think honestly, and I'm not gonna go. I'll go against Javier on that. He's already beaten Connor. What the hell? Okay, he's already beaten Connor, spat on him, and then jumped over and tried to beat up his whole team. He's not that much of a threat if you're going after the whole team after you beat the guy. Okay, so I would probably move Connor maybe to number 2 or number 3, but I'm definitely moving Tony Ferguson up to number 1, Dustin Poirier as number 2.
What do you?
Just because.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just for some fact that Tony, as much as I don't have that much faith in Tony's ability to beat Khabib, he has the unpredictability to do it. He has the unpredictable power. His rhythm is awkward. I wouldn't say as much as Dominic Cruz, but it's there. And so I think Tony has the best chance out of those 4. He's right about Max. Max is good boxing, but he doesn't have the power to take on Khabib.
All right.
Sorry.
KC.
Yeah, I don't think that Connor's really a challenge for Khabib, given that Khabib has shown he's got a solid chin and his wrestling is going to completely overpower Connor. So barring a Scarface type, he just randomly gets this really good counter, I don't see him ever challenging Khabib.
All right. Well, for me, the thing is that what we've seen is that when Connor loses a fight, he comes back better. The thing is that there's so much ground between what we saw between Connor and Khabib that I just don't think that Connor's going to improve as much as he needs to be able to counter the wrestling Khabib. The only person on this whole list of these four fighters that actually has some wrestling chops is Tony Ferguson. So whether or not Tony can wrestle with Khabib, I think remains to be seen. Tony has shown that he's got great jiu-jitsu. His striking is unpredictable, and those elbows and those punches and those knees that Tony employs can cut you. I mean, those things are indeed razor blades. So I think Tony Ferguson is probably the most dangerous one on the list. I think Dustin Poirier, he's going to get the chance to prove what he can do later on this year. I like Dustin Poirier a lot. I just don't think that he's going to be able to keep himself off the ground. If this fight stays standing up, he's got a chance. So I'm going to give the nod to Connor for the number 2 most dangerous, Dustin number 3, and then I agree with Max. I mean, Max, the way he got destroyed by Dustin Poirier, he just doesn't have the size and the strength to be able to contend at 155, at least not until he puts on that additional muscle and makes 155 his permanent home. So that's the way I feel. Let's go on to the next story. Arnold Schwarzenegger drop kicked at a South African event. This one won't take long to cover. It's just hilarious. Arnold Schwarzenegger's taking selfies with folks in the crowd. All of a sudden, some random dude just comes up and just does a WWE style drop kick right into the back of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't even think Arnold Schwarzenegger moved very much. Like, the dude is a big dude.
Yeah. Didn't somebody hear him say that he needed help? He needed a Lamborghini, and then the drop kick comes out of nowhere.
It's the most random thing I've ever seen. Like, why? Yeah. If you're going to do something, why are you going to do a drop kick like that? You end up on the ground and you can't get away. Like, I'd have run by and smacked him upside the head and just kept going. At least you can escape. You got a running shot. But this guy drop kicked, and then all the bodyguards just piled on top of him and just drug him away.
Yeah, I think it was just, what would you do for a like? That's all. We'll just chalk it up to that.
Yeah.
Crazy things.
Yeah. Speaking of what you do for a like, Paulie Malignaggi spat on Artem Lobov at the bare knuckle press conference. So they had a press conference. Paulie Malignaggi, listen, I'm getting better.
I know. Clap, golf clap.
Hey, everyone. Oh, dang it. I missed my shot. I had 2 lined up. I was going to say, hey, everyone, come see how humble I am. Then I realized this was the perfect clap for yourself.
Nice.
Oh man.
Dang it.
Yeah, you see, you got to be quicker on the draw, man. So Paulie Malignaggi spat at Artem Lobov. They were having a press conference. Dude it was funny to watch the press conference because you can see that Malignaggi is good on the mic. He can talk some major trash. Artem Lobov, not so much. And I thought the funniest thing was Malignaggi is like, I'm going to turn this guy into a map. Like before there was MapQuest or there was Google Maps, there was just plain old paper maps where that lines all over it. I'm going to have him looking so cut up, he's going to look like a map with lines all over his face, and they're going to be permanent. I was like, that's pretty good. I like that imagery.
Ooh. However, you don't disrespect a man on any level by spitting on him, dude. When you spit on a man, I don't care who you are. If you spit on somebody, that's it. No more talk. Talk is for lovers at this point. We got to fight. That's it. We just got to fight. There's nothing more to say. Fists have got to meet the face.
Well, it's going to happen in June. But I'm with Paulie is way confident. Way confident.
I agree. He thinks it's gonna be an easy fight. I'm like, don't let Artem get in on you, because
I know, man.
Say what you want to say. Even though he got T-Rex arms, I mean, he's got a little power behind him. I mean, there's a reason why they call him the Russian Hammer. All right, just saying. How do we say Russian Hammer in Russian? Does anybody know? I think I should look that up. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can call him the Russian Hammer. It's more like the Russian ham.
Stop.
All right, what were you going to say, KC?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I don't like bare knuckle. I don't like it. I mean, but I want to see this fight. They've done a great job selling this fight. I want to see what happens when you get a champion boxer. Malignaggi's held 2 titles versus a guy who literally eats punches because he can't move his head out of the way. So this is the perfect setup of a true boxer versus a guy who he's a damage taker. He's a tank. And so we'll see what happens there. All right. So last story, Rashad Evans, Sugar, made it into the UFC Hall of Fame. So the UFC announced this past week that Rashad Evans is being added to the modern wing of the UFC Hall of Fame. I'm happy for him. This is a guy who won the heavyweight Ultimate Fighter, came in at light heavyweight, came in at light heavyweight and eventually won the title by knocking out Chuck Liddell, a guy that everyone at the time felt like he was invincible. I think he defended the title once and then ran into the Lyoto Machida Express. Lyoto Machida had him falling out with the stanky leg, and the rest is kind of history.
And I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, congrats to Sugar Rashad. Okay, he did what everybody told him he couldn't do. They say he couldn't knock out Chuck Liddell. He knocked him out. They said that he was washed up when he went against John Jones. He fought John Jones. He was betrayed by Greg Jackson, in my opinion, and he went to form Black Zillions. I have nothing but respect for this guy. I really do. So congrats to him.
I think the tribute was absolutely fitting. I think they did a great job telling his story of being one of the guys who really brought some personality into the UFC, and backed it up. He was a giant killer. He went in and kind of faced insurmountable odds and came out victorious time and time again. And so his legacy for sure has been cemented within the UFC. And what I love is that he's a guy who continues to give back. Like, so he's not just an on-air personality, but the relationships that he continues to foster with fighters as a mentor is really what the sport is about, right? So he went in, he made a statement, but he continues to give back to the next generation. And that to me is what makes him a Hall of Famer.
So my question is, two questions actually. Is he the first giant killer of the UFC? And two, does he meet your qualifications there, Ryan, for Hall of Fame status?
Okay, so why you gonna try to put me on why you gonna try to put me on like why? Don't ask this question.
Because you have a high standard, sir. You don't want just any old Kool-Aid. You don't want the Weiler's Kool-Aid. Oh no, you have to have the big Kool-Aid man kicking in the wall on the package Kool-Aid. So you don't just say red, Ryan. You say cherry or fruit punch. So yes, I need to know: does he meet your standards?
Oh, don't say no, Ryan. Oh, on record, I'm definitely this.
Excuse me.
Silence is always a no.
Oh no! Silence is acceptance. Something's. I need an answer. I need that answer.
All right. So no, what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm looking at his body of work because the reason why this is a big deal is because of how much rage I went into when Matt Serra got into the UFC Hall of Fame. That I just felt like it was wrong that Matt Serra should be selected into the Hall of Fame when he didn't actually do anything except beat George St. Pierre, which was he caught George St. Pierre, and
unbeatable George St. Pierre.
Yes, unbeatable, destructive George St. Pierre.
And he won the Ultimate Fighter. So he won the Ultimate Fighter, which gave him the ability to fight George St. Pierre. Then he won that fight, and then summarily lost it in quick fashion when George St. Pierre fought his way back. Like, those are the two claims to fame that he has. So when I started looking at Rashad Evans, it's like, okay, well, Rashad Evans won the Ultimate Fighter, and he beat what was a giant killer. He became a giant killer by beating someone who was seemingly unbeatable, which was Chuck Liddell.
Mm-hmm.
One could argue that George St. Pierre was in a better prime of his career than Chuck Liddell was when Rashad Evans beat him. So, that's kind of the thing that I'm looking at here, because when I look back at his career, Rashad Evans beat Michael Bisping, who basically is a Hall of Famer. He beat Chuck Liddell, who's a Hall of Famer. Forrest Griffin's a Hall of Famer. He beat Rampage Jackson. He beat Ortiz, who's a Hall of Famer. He beat Little Nog. Little Nog beat him. Sorry. He beat Dan Henderson, Sonnen, and then started losing.
Wow, so he was a giant killer. Wow.
So when you start thinking about the people that Rashad Evans beat, his body of work is better than Matt Serra.
But Matt Serra, hold on. Go ahead, Casey. Go ahead.
I would say infinitely better than Matt Serra's body of work. Plus, you have to add on that Rashad Evans, towards the end, as he's starting to pile up his losses, there's a lot of that. You got to factor in the fact that he's got head issues and very likely has CTE and wasn't cleared to fight most of the time and had to appealed to be able to fight.
Yeah, I don't want to start making excuses, because if the dude, like, this is the John Keys rule of fighting. If you step into the ring, you are ready to fight.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I ascribe to that, is that if you step into the ring, you're ready to fight. So I'm not going to take anything away from Anthony Lionheart Smith. I'm not going to take anything away from Smiling Sam Ali. I'm not going to take anything away from Glover Teixeira. You know, they beat Rashad Evans. So did Ryan Bader. And, you know, that right there is a death blow to your Hall of Fame credentials. Just saying. But I'm going to say this, and then we can put this to bed, that I will accept Rashad Evans as a Hall of Famer. I will accept him as a Hall of Famer because of his body of work, and I think that it exceeds that of Matt Serra. That Matt Serra's post-fight career, which should not be evaluated as part of his UFC application for Hall of Fame, is, I would say, much stronger than that of Rashad Evans. But that's not what you count. You count what you did in the octagon, and what Rashad Evans did in the octagon far exceeds Matt Serra. And so if Matt Serra can be in the Hall of Fame, then you better put Rashad Evans in the Hall of Fame. And they did that.
But
is there a but? Are you going to negate everything I just said with a but?
Almost. Yeah, I am. I'm going to, because everything before the but is, BS. But you didn't say.
That's what she said.
You did not say whether you believed that he belongs in that Hall of Fame.
Never gives an actual opinion.
No. I to be honest, I thought that I'd given my opinion. Yes, Rashad Evans should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, that's all I'll say. I accept that.
That is as direct an answer as I can give.
Said with zero pleasure, forced into. I guess if I have to. Like,
it just seems like anybody can get in the Hall of Fame.
Well, see, hold on. Let's give Matt Serra. All right, let's talk about him just for a second. Okay,
you only got a second. A second.
I'll give Matt Serra one thing. It's the reason why I believe that he is in the Hall of Fame, not for the fact that he killed that he knocked out unbeatable GSP, but he has a credential for being the first American to receive a Gracie black belt.
What does that have to do with anything?
It's just, I'm just saying. I do believe that's part of the credence that he earned something that was almost impossible to earn up until that time. When did that
happen?
Oh God, here we go. Okay, Mr. Fruit Punch.
I'm just saying, this is. I was awarded a Gracie black belt. It's a great honor, but it has nothing to do with the UFC.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying that could have been the one reason.
I got Bruce Lee's autograph before he died. Put me in the Hall of Fame.
No.
Oh, come on. That's not the same.
That's nowhere near the same.
I learned how to do the Jean-Claude Van Damme chair split. Put me in the Hall of Fame.
Once again, same thing as on
I avoided getting flipped by what's his name? The guy that wears the glasses in the Aikido.
You're not good at this.
No, not at all.
Can't think of his name right now. That's still put me in the Hall of Fame.
It's just like if Eddie Bravo, who was the first person to beat a Gracie in no-gi competition. Okay, first person to beat Gracie, period. A Gracie when they were at their most unstoppable point, when they came out with the Brazilian train, when they were a force of nature.
Steven Seagal.
Eddie Bravo. Oh my God.
Why is it Steven Seagal? Steven Seagal taught Anderson Silva that move that he won the fight with. Why isn't Steven Seagal in the Hall of Fame? That's what I want to know. Like, if we're just going to be like, some miscellaneous accomplishment that is outside of the octagon, that has nothing to do with the people that I beat and the accomplishments that I made inside of an 8-sided cage, it doesn't even matter anymore. Like how many tickets did I sell? I was on UFC 100. Put me in the Hall of Fame.
No.
White can make it to the Hall of Fame?
Huh?
Dana White can never make it to the Hall of Fame?
Dana White can make it in the Hall. He makes the Hall of Fame. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame.
No, he doesn't.
I thought it was just based on what you did in the octagon, but
yeah,
then what you get is the special dispensations. It's like whenever you have coaches that are in the NFL Hall of Fame, they didn't actually play, but they are in the Hall of Fame. Like
how many coaches?
Bill Belichick's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but you only have like a few. Not many coaches make it.
My question is, how many coaches do we have in the UFC Hall of Fame right now?
I don't know.
None.
There you go.
Okay.
But with the Matt Serra rule, if somebody's just friends with Dana White, they can be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, look at this. Which, by the way, he is a good friend of Dana White.
That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. It's not because he did something impressive in the octagon. It's because he's friends with Dana White, and Dana White's like, it's the UFC Hall of Fame. I pick who goes in. Therefore, Matt Serra, even though you had a pretty average Hall of Fame career, I'm going to put you in.
Wow. Okay. I can't compete with this. Okay.
I'm just saying, and it's hard for me because I really like Matt Serra as a person, and I really like Matt Serra, what he's doing outside of the octagon. I like what he's coaching, Ray Longo. Those guys are putting great athletes in the octagon, all that. But go in, you've got a stronger pedigree as a coach than you do as a fighter. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
I'm not on Twitter.
Oh, well, I'm on Twitter at Keys to Victory.
On Instagram, I'm at Combat Sports Talk.
Is that the one where you talk about politics?
No, I don't talk about politics on Instagram.
Is that the one where you show your work travel?
No, I don't. No, that's not the one.
Is that the one where you run for public office?
No, that's not the one where I run for public office. I don't have one that runs for public office. All I have is Combat Sports Talk.
Just checking.
And what about you, Casey? Do you have an Instagram? Do you even know what that is?
I think I've heard this. It's Western Union, right?
Yes, that's right. And you've got like 4 accounts at Western Union.
I am at Push Pull Pray if you want to watch all of my sporting adventures.
All right, which was the one where you sing?
The other one.
Obfuscated. Wow. That's the one. Good luck spelling that one.
Yeah.
It's obfuscated for a reason.
You can check out the website at www.combatsportstalk.com. We're on all of the favorite podcast platforms. So whatever you like, just subscribe. Send us some comments. Let us know what you think about what we're doing. We have merchandise. You can find it on our website under the merchandise link. And I am excited to say that on June the 8th, I'm going to be back with George G Money, double champ Stallworth, and we're going to talk about the fights that are happening, and we're going to crown a new 135-pound bantamweight champion. Hopefully it is not Henry Cejudo. Anything else, guys?
How to say Russian hammer in Russian is Ruski Molotov.
Yeah, that's probably exactly how it sounds.
Yeah, probably just like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, man, what? Oh, my goodness.
So much hate for them.
I know. The vitriol of it all, people. Goodness. Somebody needs some Kool-Aid. You need some Kool-Aid, sir.
We're gonna get that drop. We're going to get that drop. That's the next drop that we're adding is the Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com, and KC Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For KC Onyebuchi and John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.